You ever watch a franchise take the scenic route to a problem it could have solved two exits back? The Cleveland Browns are doing that right now at quarterback, and the plot twist people are whispering about is bonkers. What if Cleveland flipped rookie Shedeur Sanders and a couple of picks for Kyler Murray? Let's walk through it. First, the setup. The Cleveland Browns are 2-6 and trying to figure out whether their future sits with Dillon Gabriel, the rookie they picked in round 3, or Shedeur Sanders, the flashy fifth-rounder who, believe it or not, still hasn't taken a regular season snap. The Browns have shuffled quarterbacks, traded Joe Flacco away, cycled through veteran options, and managed to keep us all guessing, which is one way to run a drama, but a terrible way to run a franchise. Enter the trade pitch. Bleacher Report laid out a scenario on November 8th that would send Pitts and Sanders to the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for Kyler Murray, the two-time Pro Bowl quarterback who, when healthy, is still a generational dual threat. With Murray on injured reserve this season and Arizona's offense in disarray, the idea is the Cardinals might be willing to move him for the right package. It's the kind of move that would instantly change the Browns' ceiling, for better or worse. So is it realistic? Sort of, but with a parade of caveats. Kyler Murray's situation in Arizona is messy. He's on injured reserve with a foot problem, the team has stared down awful results, and the idea of a breakup is in the air. Analysts are openly discussing the possibility he's on his way out. That creates the market condition. A guy with star upside but injury risk and a heavy contract becomes exactly the kind of swing for it asset some franchises will chase. Now the practical ledger. The Browns are lugging around a heavy financial elephant named Deshaun Watson. His contract and restructures have created cap complexities that aren't going away with wishful thinking. Cleveland's projected cap space for next year would make swallowing Murray's $22.8 million base salary possible, but it's not the whole story. Dead money guarantees and the Watson hangover turn any "we'll just add Kyler" plan into a Rubik's Cube. You'd still need to be surgical or creative with restructures. Then there's the draft pick price. The blueprint includes giving up a 2026 second-round pick plus a 2026 third-round pick and Sanders in the near term. That's the sort of package that says, we want a real shot this offseason and maybe the next. It's not reckless for a 2-6 team with playoff aspirations. It's desperate. And desperation can work. Or it can wreck you. There's a long list of teams that mortgaged futures for a QB win-now push and ended up resetting for a decade. That risk isn't theoretical, it's evidenced in the market. Okay, let's get to the player-level trade-offs. Kyler Murray, what you buy. When healthy, you buy elite playmaking. He's a former number 1 overall pick, an MVP-caliber runner who stretches the field vertically and creates explosive plays on the ground. You buy immediate playoff-level upside. A ceiling that Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders haven't yet proven. But you also buy medical red flags, a recent dip in production, and a contract that anchors payroll flexibility. It's high upside, high volatility. Shedeur Sanders, what you sell. He's young, athletic, and carries upside as a dual-threat passer with an NFL pedigree and a famous last name that brings attention and pressure. The Browns drafted him to be a future starter. If the organization actually believes in developing from within, Sanders is a reasonable bet. But the front office's actions to date, limited reps, choosing Dillon Gabriel to start, benching Sanders when he was healthy enough to warm up, have signaled a lack of immediate trust. That lowers his market value internally and makes trading him easier to justify for some execs. So what does Cleveland actually get with Murray? Short answer, an experienced starter with a sky-high ceiling who could make this team win now. Longer answer, a roster sorely in need of line upgrades and stable weapons. Murray's mobility helps, but he still needs protection and playmakers who fit his skill set. The Browns' offensive line grade this year has been one of the worst in the league. That's not a small footnote. You can trade for a quarterback, but you can't buy time in the pocket the week before a playoff push. Here's the psychological factor. If you're a Browns fan, trading for Kyler Murray signals you've run out of patience with development and want star power now. That can energize a fan base and a locker room, or it can create more chaos if Murray's health or fit is poor. Conversely, if you keep Sanders, you signal you're willing to endure a rebuild arc, time, coaching, patience. Both messages are defensible. Both have costs. Let's play the scenarios. Scenario A. The Browns trade for Kyler Murray, spend a pick or two, and make a legit run in 2026. If the offensive line improves and the defense holds, Murray's dynamic play could vault Cleveland back into contention. But if injuries recur or the line remains a sieve, Cleveland risks spending high picks and cap space for diminishing returns. That's textbook gamble. Scenario B. The Browns keep Sanders and draft or develop around him. That's the patient path. You retain draft capital, you get a quarterback on rookie cost control, and you build sustainably. But it takes time, and patience is a rare commodity in Cleveland's ownership narrative, especially if wins don't come fast. Final question. Would I recommend the trade? I'll answer like a coach and a pragmatist. If the Browns are absolutely convinced their offensive line problems are solvable in the short term by trade, free agency, or a miracle of cheap signings, then trading for Kyler Murray is tempting. You get a real difference maker and the signal that the franchise is all in. But if the offensive line remains a structural problem and Watson's cap still chokes flexibility, then handing over picks and a young QB for Murray feels like putting a Hail Mary on the scoreboard without a plan for the extra point. Here's the bottom line. Trading Shedeur Sanders for Kyler Murray is headline candy and would be a franchise-defining swing. It's a bold move, potentially the fastest way to get back into contention and simultaneously one of the easiest ways to accelerate a rebuild if the variables don't line up. The market has created the possibility. Now it's on the Browns front office to decide whether they want to be buyers of a star or architects of a future. If you asked me to bet the Browns' future on one of these paths today, I'd say the smarter long-term play is patience with Sanders. Unless ownership wants to blow the doors off the offseason to give Murray exactly what he needs: protection, weapons, and time. That's the only moment a Murray bet reliably pays off. Either way, this is one of those moments where the difference between a franchise that gets lucky and a franchise that plans smart isn't flair. It's planning, chemistry, and more boringly, salary cap math. What if I told you the Browns could flip a rookie they haven't even let run the full route for one they know is both spectacular and fragile, and that doing it might be the clearest signal they could send about what they want their future to look like? Picture this: a quiet meeting room at the team facility. On one side is Shedeur Sanders, fresh, polished, full of Instagram highlights and draft night hope. On the other side, a figure you don't really see in person anymore because he's been hurt and distant: Kyler Murray, a two-time Pro Bowler, electric when healthy and expensive in every sense of the word. Between them sits the ledger: cap numbers, draft picks, the looming shadow of Deshaun Watson's contract. The Browns have three ways forward, and right now the room smells like money, fear, and possibility. You don't need to be a GM to understand what's at stake. Quarterback is the lever that tilts franchises. It's the currency every contender chases. The Browns, laden with the Watson hangover and a thin cap, face a brutal arithmetic. Develop a rookie and hope he becomes your answer, draft a quarterback and pray you hit, or swing for a name, Murray, who can win now but might not show up tomorrow in the same shape. That's the emotional currency of this moment. It's messy, it's human, and it matters. Let's break the scene into 3 acts, because football, like drama, is an ugly, compelling 3-act play. Act 1, the problem. Cleveland's quarterback carousel this year reads like a procedural you can't stop watching. Trades, dead money, one-week starters, a 2-6 record that makes playoff math feel like abstract art. Shedeur Sanders, the rookie with bloodlines and promise, hasn't taken a regular season start yet. Dylan Gabriel looks like a stopgap. Joe Flacco, traded away. Kenny Pickett, a blip. The front office stares at its calendar and sees a draft that might not gift them a can't-miss QB because the team could win a few games and slide out of the top selection range. That's the perverse trap of trying to stay relevant. Your own success can block the path to a better future. Enter Kyler Murray. The man is a highlight reel in cleats. Dual threat, quick release, the sort of quarterback that can rewire an offense. He's also hurt, expensive, and comes with the baggage of durability concerns. The Cardinals appear open to moving him if the right offer lands, and that is the lever some analysts suggest the Browns pull. Package Sanders some picks and a contractual dance, and maybe you get a real tested starter. It's seductive. It's dangerous. It's very, very real. Act 2, the trade pitch. Let's play the hypothetical like chess. The Browns would have to clear money. They're projected at $18.2 million in cap space next year, while Murray's base is $22.8 million. That gap is solvable with restructures and creative accounting, but it's not painless. Then there's the pick price. Someone like Bleacher Report's Kristopher Knox argues the Browns should add a third rounder in the near term and a second rounder in 2026 to make the deal pop. That's not pocket change. Those picks are the future draft capital you use to refill the cupboard when veterans inevitably leave. What do you get in return? A Pro Bowl caliber starter who can command games today. Imagine a locker room where a quarterback's presence makes play callers breathe easier, where the offensive identity doesn't feel like procedural improvisation. For a franchise that's been maddeningly inconsistent under center, that stability is seductive. But every currency has two sides. Murray's production has been promising, but injuries and the physical toll of his style of play are real. You could win now, but what if the injury history repeats and you've spent picks and a rookie you once hoped to groom? Now the human angle. Shedeur Sanders is more than a draft grade. He's a person, a rookie who's had coaches tiptoe around him, who's watched the team sway from plan to plan. Trading him before we know what he is. That feels, to many fans, like closing the book before you read the middle chapters. It's not just logic, it's identity. Cleveland's fan base, hungry for stability, is also weary of short-term fixes that come with long-term regret. The Watson precedent hangs over negotiations like a cautionary mural. Commit too hard to a quick fix, and you might buy yesterday's headlines at the expense of tomorrow's cohesion. Act 3, the decision. Here's where the theater tightens. The Browns have three real pathways. 1, commit to Sanders, let him start, and build around him. That's authenticity, but it's also risk. He's unproven, the line in front of him is suspect, and time is a merciless teacher. 2, draft a quarterback in 2026, which means praying you land high enough to grab a legitimate prospect, and also accepting the possibility of another year or two of rebuilding. 3, trade for Murray,